Welcome to Loleventvods. Watch the full game of today's LTA 2025 matchup.
So Shopify have done a little bit of it in the past, and Fudge talked to him right before the game. He said he was fairly confident, so we'll see what they can do.
All right, getting into draft now. You can see FlyQuest, a little bit different attire here today, wearing their pink jerseys in support of FlyQuest Red, their women's team, alongside celebrating their goal of getting 30 cats adopted with their Cat Quest mission.
Okay.
So FlyQuest getting a couple dubs here on stage before the draft even begins, but we'll see if they can also find that same success in-game. Now, let's check out our bans as Yone, Gwen, and Ezreal are removed by FlyQuest. Over there for Shopify, it's the Vi, the Azir, and the Nico taken off the table as Varus is the first lock here for FlyQuest.
I mean, there's the Jace hover, but I would be very surprised to see them blinding Jace here against Bwipo, who has so many different counters, different answers for it. Instead, it is going to be the Rumble, which makes me think we might be getting a Galio over on the other side for Bwipo. This is a guy who has some really well-defined counter picks that he loves to go towards, but Contracts will get the Nefiri that I think we have seen him be very, very successful on. Grouping up with Seos, constantly attacking the enemy jungle, really liking to play in their face. It's something that you love to see.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the junglers that jumped on this champion as soon as it got its little mini rework and got the untargetability on the W. And it's a strategy they came into the league perfecting and trying. And it's a strategy that has paid off for them. So we do get the expected counter pick with the magic shield, the pushing here for Galio into Rumble. But I really, really like the Pantheon answer as well. Pantheon having that point and click CC and having the global really helps them out towards the mid game. Pantheon plus Galio, it just puts so many extra questions to Shopify to have to deal with in the mid game when you have multiple areas on the map that can be covered.
I call it the meteor shower combo. They both just come raining down from the sky, and instantly the fight can be turned no matter how well you think you might have set it up on the other side. But it looks like Shopify going to lock in a little bit of extra long range for themselves here with the Jhin, the Curtain Call, and Deadly Flourish being able to help out as Rumble and the Fury go into scrap. Victor going to be the first ban here in the second half for Shopify, wanting to keep that one away from Quad.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, how heavily Shopify will be committing to the dive, if they want to go for an aggressive mid laner here for Palafox as well. Of course, they do have an AD jungler, so they could be looking, for one of these aggressive pairings, things like the Ahri that are up and available. The Victor's been banned out. Wouldn't be surprised to see Quad just tanking another ban here. Cassio is something that hasn't been banned out, but very frequently does get banned against him. It is one of the most banned champions against FlyQuest. Quad is so well known for that champ that, generally speaking, FlyQuest really eats a lot of targeted bans, bans that aren't necessarily that popular in the meta. Things like the Cassio, like the Scion, like the Yorick.
And especially when you are playing, best of 5 Fearless, which we have not played a lot of, you do have to think about the progression of your pick ban phase here if we do get very deep in it versus a team like FlyQuest that have so many tools. So they opt for the Talia right now. Like Talia, pretty much every mid laner just agrees is just OP.
Especially with Pantheon.
So, yeah, exactly. You cannot let that go through with the point and click setup.
Talia with Pantheon and Galio would be pretty difficult to deal with in terms of any sort of a side lane situation, but that's off the table, and it's double support bans from FlyQuest as Bard and Karma are both removed.
Interesting, because I would think like Seos is going to be on like a Nautilus or a Rel or some sort of CC champ here on the bottom side. They just operate so much better with that, and if you look at the team that they've drafted, they need setup and frontline to keep people on a Rumble Ultimate to go roam around with the Nefiri. So Seos, definitely expect him to go that route for support, but we're shifting through quite a few mid lane options here instead for Shopify.
It's interesting as well that they're electing actually counterpick support, and they are going to be blinding their mid. Of course, in theory, it could be any support, but I think there's like a 99% chance that it is going to be going mid lane. So they are going to be blinding that Annie for Palafox. The Ahri, one of the ones considered here, but this does make a lot of sense here. It gives them some CC, it gives them a little bit of initiation, but I still think they are going to need some hard engage from bot lane. And I feel like when you are really locked into that, it's harder to get a big advantage from your support counter pick. So we'll see where they're going to go. It is going to be an Ornn coming out. So this could be Galio mid. I think they're going to shift the Galio to mid into the Annie here. They're saying, you know what? You're not going to be able to bully us here. We're just going to move the Ornn up to the top side, give ourselves incredible engage between the Ornn, the Pantheon out, the Galio, and they can go aggressive here, potentially for Busio.
Yeah, this is probably the reason why they wanted support counterpick, because if you were thinking Rel, then you don't have to play into Alistar, and then you also have to worry about, oh, is there going to be like Braum counterpicks if you want to play, a lot of those engaged supports. So we'll see what Seos does now that he sees it is for sure an Alistar, because this is a beefy FlyQuest comp.
It really is. And I think it's smart because when you're looking over, it's like, who is supposed to be the one killing all these tanks, right? Like, is it the Annie? Is it the Jhin? Like, not really.
Yeah.
But they do have a lot of different threats. And if they are ahead of the pace of the game, then maybe they're going to have enough damage coming from all of these different sources to kind of punch through these targets. But it feels really hard. And I also am struggling to think, what they're going to pick here on 5 that gives them a big advantage. The Braum comes through, that feels fine. But it doesn't feel like they got a big support edge, in that bot lane 2v2 by any means. Yeah. And it doesn't feel like they're going to be that happy about the mid lane 1v1.
Yeah, I think it's just, it provides a lot of value for team, since the enemy team is all these like melee range, really short range.
Apply that passive.
Yeah, exactly. You can control a lot of space there. It does mean they are going to rely a lot on Annie flash engages, because Palafox kind of has to now be such a primary tool for a lot of their plays. And that is going to be a big and kind of different look here for Shopify. So a lot of pressure on Palafox's shoulders here with the Annie. Of course, nice little rework to Annie. Did give her a lot of burst damage in the regular abilities. But the big engage is still going to be super critical when you have the stun, when you have flash, finding the right angle, using Fog of War and stuff to get in there.
It really is. But I will say, over on the FlyQuest side, if you can kill Masu off early in the fight, they are so low on damage. It's not going to be easy to do because you have to get through the Alistar and the Ornn and the Galio and the point and click CC from the Pantheon. But you have a lot of point and click attacks yourself, right? If you get a Flash Tibbers onto Masu here and you have the Nefiri ult coming through, the Rumble Equalizer on his head, everything thrown at Masu to take him out, you can make it happen.
So almost every Shopify game where they get contracts on Nefiri, they go for these invades early on to get vision for their team so that he can have options for hashing enemy junglers. And so FlyQuest, knowing this tendency, defensively ward their Raptors, and they see the Shopify Raptor ward put down.
Are they going to ward over the wall?
Look, wow, this. Okay. I thought for a second there that could be real dicey.
Maybe going to get real spicy here and hop over the wall, but Fudge is coming down. I mean, this is a pretty active level 1, we'll say.
Palafox is getting some first strike value.
Yeah, exactly. The first strike, truly, the first one of the game. The little auto attack getting in there. But apparently FlyQuest were discussing some genius midfielder Palafox aura before the game. Let's take a listen.
Be careful, Quad. Enemy midfielder is genius.
What did you say?
Careful, Quad. Enemy midfielder is genius.
Enemy mid is genius?
Enemy midfielder is genius. You don't know meme?
I don't know this, man.
Zhao Hu did an interview and he said...
No, it's Showmaker, no?
No. It was Zhao Hu.
Oh.
He said enemy mid laner has aura of genius.
Yeah, if he roams anywhere or does anything, I'll just be saying that in comms.
Enemy mid is
He's doing
genius.
a million damage on the Stilio.
Millions of damage. Millions of damage.
Genius little stun right there.
Yeah.
on the
Genius
Galio
last
side.
hit,
Everything he does. It's just the genius aura emanating from mid lane. And again, Annie will be critical to this team because this is such a snowbally champion. If you can get ahead, you can definitely have some really high impact roams. Busio said he's definitely going to be looking for those.
Mm-hmm. Point and click spells are definitely powerful if you get ahead.
Okay, we have an invade coming out here early as Contracts moves into the jungle against Inspired, looking to use the early power of this Nefiri. We know how much Contracts loves to do this on this champion. His bottom lane has priority, so they can rotate over to help him. He loves trying to attack the enemy jungler at their second buff at level 3.
Also actually got a lot of damage down on Seos as he was trying to move over to help. Inspired's going back for the steal, couldn't get it. But they forced out the heal from the Braum there because Masu got so much damage on him as he was walking up through Tribrush.
Yep, every single game. Contracts on Nefiri.
Always.
Going for these invades. It does take away the red, but Inspired can just recall and go up for top crab instead after the bottom side has been under contention.
I did like how Inspired handled that, though. He immediately just backed off. He charged up his passive so he could have that full passive Q to try to go back and actually steal it. Of course, he didn't get it, but I thought he played that out pretty intelligently, you know, buying time for Busio to move over and give him that support.
Yeah, and Contracts as well. You know, you use your second Q on the Fury for the execution damage as well. Always trying to combo.
Yeah, and so this is a FlyQuest that only has 2 losses this entire split. And while people are going to be looking at this as very favored towards them, and I think rightfully so, one loss was during the positioning phase to Cloud9. Their only loss during the group phase was actually to Shopify in a 2-1 series that, yes, they did win, but Fudge really had a good one. Was getting the better of Whippo in all 3 games, I felt, despite the loss. And it was a very competitive series, and I think that is kind of giving some hope here to Shopify that they can compete.
And so Inspired, because of the early recall that he took after finishing on bottom side, even though his red was stolen, he has combat advantage now with the extra longswords in inventory. So he comes back over to contest Contracts when Contracts tries to protect his red quadrant. We'll see about this Smite fight. Smite's coming back up shortly, and Inspired's was already there, so Contracts doesn't quite get that Krug. And Inspired's gets a little vengeance with Busio roaming too.
Yep, Busio helping out Inspired there. They not only get the large Krug, but all the smaller ones as well. Whippo in a bit of a tough spot here against Fudge, using the early power of that Rumble to try to keep this Ornn down.
And something we haven't touched on yet is Whippo is actually playing Unsealed Spellbook. It's something I've seen him experiment with on his stream. It did get some buffs. You know, once you actually get through, you know, all the rotations, the cooldown gets very low now. It's down to 1 minute and 30. Obviously, it takes quite some time in the game to be able to actually get through all those rotations. The first change does unlock at 6 minutes. But it's a lot of utility. It scales very, very well. And we have to touch in on, this is how the matchup went last time. So the left stats are Whippo against the field. The right stats are Whippo in his matchup against Fudge. Actually did way worse than expected, as Fudge was playing incredibly well. Palafox should be able to walk this off, but you know, Fudge was such a big part of that series, and he does have a nice little advantage for himself, 300 gold early on. You have to think that Fudge has to have a good game, you know, get that advantage for them to be able to really have a shot against FlyQuest in this series.
Yeah, a lot riding on this, as you can see in DeMonte tweeting as well. Big for Shopify here into playoffs for
First
the
organization.
Old squad. Really, really big stuff for him. Yeah, individually. He's talked about knowing these FlyQuest players really well and how they play.
The inside man.
We'll see if that could actually convert to a win this time around in the series. But I definitely like that you're highlighting the Fudge Whippo matchup because it was so impactful last time. Maybe we can see some of these old Ornn counter kills where you have the Ignite swapped over on Spellbook. Inspired's here.
Whippo starting off with the Ornn Horn as
flash.
Fudge immediately flashes away, does not want to take any risk there. If you get hit by it, you're just going to take damage and still have to flash anyway, even if you live, so you might as well spend it early.
I honestly think if you don't flash that, then you're going to get stunned by Inspired, you're going to get ignited, there's going to be so much follow-up damage, I think you're just dead to rights. So I think that was the correct flash, respectful flash there. When you have that Ignite swapped over to from the Unsealed Spellbook, like Kobe was talking about, the kill threat is so high. Ornn does so much damage with a full combo at 6, and then you have that threat there. Yes, you are weaker early without the grasp, but there's a lot of power to be had here, and I think we're going to see Whippo, you know, likely just cycle through this pretty quickly, just get that Ignite on cooldown when he can, and start to just kind of move through those cooldowns as fast as he can.
And Inspired ganking for Whippo on a Pantheon as bottom lane does go for a little exchange.
Yeah, the Chains of Corruption from Masu finding a lot of damage here onto Seos, who again has to use the heal. Masu taking some pain of his own though as B-Boy fires back.
That Inspired Pantheon ganking for Whippo in this Cloud9 series, it was actually quite huge. And that was a dominating series from FlyQuest. Actually set records in the LTA with how quickly they dispatched Cloud9. So that, you know, avoidance of the death on top there, quite big for Fudge. But you know Inspired will come repeat, try and abuse that flashless Rumble.
And he's 6 now, he's going to look.
Okay, let's see what we can get as there it is, the Grand Starfall, and Fudge is not looking too good. First blood over to Inspired.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually not rocket science. I mean, it is a Pantheon with ultimate, and you're like, well, there's one person with no flash here, Flowers, so got to be very careful. And they do convert for the kill. That is just textbook jungling right there. Blow the flash on the first visit, repeat with the global. What will be the Shopify answer, though? Because, again, you invest a little bit, and Fudge, or Bwipo has gone for his recall, so they're trying to get the grubs in the meantime. Looks like Contracts will at least get some of them.
Yeah, he should at least get one at the very least here, but Inspired is going to be here. And,
now he's jump over the back of the pit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Inspired going to show up to try to contest this. Both bot lane duos also making their way towards this part of the map. Neither team did the early bot to top swap that we often see with those bottom lane duos, as Inspired takes that second grub, but now in a little bit of danger here as Shopify try to make their move. Busio here on the front line, but does not have Unbreakable Will to try to survive. B-Boy under pressure as Masu's looking for some AD carry violence. Meanwhile, more problems for Fudge up there in the top lane as Quad is locked up and shot down. Palafox getting one, but it's FlyQuest taking one back as Inspired finds another kill under the Rumble.
Yeah, 1 for 1 at the end of the day there, and that one hurts for Fudge. He didn't have the equalizer, so he couldn't really get involved. And as he tried to walk him from top lane, they just turned on him, were able to knock him down. It is 2 grubs, though, for Shopify, so they did grab a second grub towards the end of that fight.
Yeah, Contracts able to grab that one during the skirmish. Honestly, though, the focus of money might be an issue because Inspired, as we said, in the series versus Cloud9, was huge on this champ. He was the one to get both of these kills. So it is going to be an accelerated Pantheon. And when you do have a global to be able to spread that pressure, it can mean very big things for the mid game. Here's another look at it. Of course, on the top side of your screen, you can see Fudge was very quickly isolated there, and Inspired knew I have flash advantage, so they're going to guarantee that kill. But the other side of the map is where Shopify slightly came out ahead, getting their counter kill as well as the extra grub.
And honestly, it could have been even better for them. Palafox's Tibbers only connected onto the Galio. If he caught Inspired as well, maybe there's some sort of threat of a follow-up. I thought Masu played it quite well, though, actually just isolating B-Boy. When he opened up with the Jhin ult, Masu just kind of went over and started just fighting him 1v1, which he's always going to win, pushes the Jhin back, made it so B-Boy couldn't really follow up. Palafox had spent all his spells, so they were kind of just light on damage without the equalizer.
Palafox now without that flash for a little while longer. You guys talked a lot about it, I think rightfully so, after we saw the way that the drafts ended up shaping up. There's so much that rides on this Annie. So much of this is, can he get a big flash engage? And I think so much of it is also then going to be making sure that that flash is always available for that purpose, right? If you're FlyQuest and you can manage to force the Annie flash defensively, all of a sudden the team fight from Shopify just feels so much weaker.
I mean, I think it's a really good point, and you can see that he has gone Lucidity boots, is going to be trying to play around that as much as he possibly can. A lot of MR already being purchased up here, though. You've got to be able to actually get towards that back line. You can see Kanan Crookern done for Bwipo. He rushes that first. We already have that Cowl done for Quad as well. So there's going to be a lot of MR on this front line. You've got to be able to find a way to get past them, but there's so much CC on these champs that it is going to be really difficult unless you're first to the spot.
All right, first Drake of the game taken by FlyQuest, and that's going to be, honestly, a pretty late first Drake, 11 minutes in. Not a lot of early focus onto the neutrals as Masu's in danger. Contracts jumping in here with the ulti. It's up to B-Void to hit the shots, but Masu gets out of the curtain call range just in time.
Okay, he survives for now. Shopify doesn't look like there's going to be any transition on the map, so yeah, FlyQuest, they grab their dragon. Masu, with the cleanse, is going to avoid his death in a mid lane, and the first item power spikes are all just about coming in here. So we'll have a pretty big scuffle around the next one.
All right, 19,000 gold for both teams. Very, very close game state. The single dragon's not really going to make or break anything. The 2-to-1 advantage on the grubs. Again, similar story. Palafox in danger as Inspired arrives, and Bwipo puts the chain CC together. Easy peasy. 3 kills to 1 now. FlyQuest takes the feat of warfare.
So I have to point out that there is a bit of an overlay bug at the moment. Palafox's flash, I am in the game, and it is not actually up. So the indicator is showing it up. He could not have flashed that. It's not actually up at the moment. But yeah, nice double long-range ultimate usage there to actually kill the Annie, because FlyQuest are correctly tracking that flash and know that it had not quite come back off of cooldown, which it is just about now.
And he is going to be very squishy, right? And it's not like there's any HP built up whatsoever. He is just on the Malignance, so is going to have that shorter ulti cooldown for the Tibbers, for these potential engages, and clearly he is going heavily towards CDR and trying to play for that. But it does mean if you get caught, you are going to get blown up in a hurry.
And big credit to Inspired in usage of this Pantheon ultimate. He has had really high value with all of his movement. This is one of the reasons we and everyone talks about Inspired so much with this team. He has been very good with his clear, despite the early invade from Shopify. And here we go.
Seos in some danger immediately as FlyQuest go for the engage. The Braum is a difficult target, but they got plenty of firepower, and they're already on their first kill. Now Contracts, focused by Bwipo, as the rest of FlyQuest reassembles after the equalizer had come down. Contracts and Fudge disengaging off to the right. FlyQuest won't find anything more, but they got what they needed.
Yeah, they got the flash off of Fudge there on the side as well, as Bwipo's now on Ghost here with the Unsealed Spellbook, comes in, is able to put some pressure onto Fudge. They already got that initial kill there onto Seos, and there just wasn't really much of a chance at actually continuing the fight afterwards. The equalizer was placed pretty well, but there was no CC to actually hold them in it, so FlyQuest just kind of wander out of that and are still sitting pretty, and are going to be able to get the push down on bot side. Someone's going to have to get up towards top side and eventually answer this Annie, but FlyQuest have got to be quite happy, I think, with how the early stages have gone.
Inspired is 3-0-1 on the Pantheon, almost has the ulti off cooldown yet again, and the Rift Herald is going to spawn in 30 seconds. I expect FlyQuest to have their eyes set on this, and then the question just becomes, do Shopify want to fight for it? Do you want to just try to trade a turret somewhere else on the map? How confident are they feeling when it seems like it's kind of difficult for them to find what they're looking for in these fights with that lack of CC that you're talking about?
And I do really think they are on a bit of a timer here. You want to be able to actually get these kills on Masu, win team fights before he can get towards the 3-4 item mark where he starts to get these defensive items in, right? Like almost guaranteed. He's going Blade of the Rune King, he's going Rage Blade. Those are going to be the first two. But if he gets to Wit's End and he gets to some of these like tanky items that are going to really make it difficult to actually burst him down, with what we're assuming is going to be a Locket and so on coming in, and the Galio ulti shield and all these things, I think it's just not going to be there as far as the damage you need to 100-0 him.
Well, that will be the challenge here for the Rebels, as it looks like FlyQuest is already ready to start up this Herald.
And Inspired there, even funneling an extra cannon wave into their Varus, into Masu's hands to further accelerate and feed as much money as you can into the AD carry. This is something Inspired has always done on all of the teams when he was back on EG, did so much with Danny, trying to get as much money for his AD carry as possible. So it is going to be a rotation on over to the Herald. Easily pick that one up. And he has the 1,000 gold individual lead, now even more than that in the jungle. And Ultimate will be ready to roll here for him as well. See, as far as the flashes go, Fudge is kind of the primary target again, since like you're talking about, that one was blown, and Fudge on the bottom side of the map does have to be very careful with his positioning. No flash on the Rumble has been a primary target. Dragon is coming up very shortly, so everyone's going to be looking.
Yep, 10 seconds until that Drake spawns. Again, this is a very slow Drake game. The first one only being taken about 11.5 minutes into the game means that there's only that single Drake thus far, possessed by FlyQuest. They also have the Herald alongside the Drake. They lost out on the Grubs, so they need one more neutral objective to claim that feat, claim the Empowered Boots. If Shopify can take this Drake, obviously they'll be able to stop that for now, but it's FlyQuest first on the scene again.
Yeah, and it looks like it's just there's no way they're even going to try to contest. You can see Contracts is up on top side. Annie's going to be pushing that top lane down, trying to at least deny a little bit of farm. Just going to be an easy Drake there for FlyQuest. Their second of the game, so it's not like it's going to be ultra fast soul that they are facing down here, but they are going to be slowly working towards that. They have the feats of strength already completed, and that's just going to make things that much more difficult.
Seo's trying to jump forward there, throws up the Unbreakable, tries to tag Masu with a winner's bite, but it's not like there's really a whole lot of threat behind it, even if he hits him. We still have another 3 minutes or so until the Otacon spawns. Will be the bot side Otacon this time around. Honestly, it's not a super high kill game, but pretty much every kill that's happened has been Inspired.
Yeah, Inspired involved in all of them. A lot in tandem with some of the other ultimates. Bwipo's Ornn provides a lot of setup value there. But honestly, it has been just really intelligent pathing from Inspired. Talking about dealing with the early invade, keeping up his farm, going for the counter invades, preying on people with no flashes.
Here we go. Inspired ready to make the dive happen as Bwipo goes in for the ulti, and they're going to combo Palafox down before he can do a damn thing about it. Now Quad's ready to show up for the two-man taunt. Bucio's there right behind him. FlyQuest just murdered Shopify.
CC is OP, Flowers, and they've got a lot of it. FlyQuest here go for the tower dive. And instead of tracking like time CC'd for these people in their death timers,
Not CC'd.
yeah, exactly. Time,
0.
time not CC'd, probably very, very close to 0. So FlyQuest get the tower afterwards after the bounce house goes on fire in the top side.
Yeah, I mean, this time Palafox did have the flash, but I think he's saying, okay, Contrax is with me. I can survive the initial damage, then throw out my full combo and maybe live. He even got his self-Eon, but he just gets basically 100 to 0'd in the CC there. Then Contrax is here trying to hold on. He pops the W, but look at the Quad. He just repositions with the move speed there from the teleport, able to get in on top, hold that taunt so long that he catches Contrax after he comes out of the immune, gets Fudge as well. Bucio arrives, the whole team arrives, and they just wipe them off the map.
I love tanks.
I love the fact that FlyQuest brought everybody up there because Fudge's teleport, which would normally be the attempted punish of the dive, just ends up being more free food for FlyQuest. And now they're summoning up the Herald here in mid lane. The turret is about to be taken out. They try to use the Palafox ulti to make an engage, but it ain't going to happen. And now Contrax is already in danger. Bucio looking to keep going forward with the Unbreakable Will, knocks Palafox up into the air as Contrax will fall, and a grand entrance for Quad locks up 3. Palafox about to drop. B-Boys on the run. Seos is heading straight into the dirt as FlyQuest just runs Shopify over.
Quad is getting some mega value taunts here. He is getting multiple people on every single tower dive that they go for. I was kind of hopeful, Flowers, when I saw Palafox sitting on the super blast cone. Those are some of the like coolest plays in the game, but they were only 4v5 and Fudge didn't have teleport. So Palafox goes like jumping in there. It's really about once they take the tower though, Rift Herald comes down and they're just chasing him through. Nobody can run away.
And I just really like how FlyQuest actually plays it out. You know, Bwipo is on the side with Inspired, chasing after the Fury. On the other side, Bucio is just marking Palafox, so he can't spend his spells on anyone except the Alistar. He's just getting pushed back. That leaves Masu free-firing the entire time. We're back to live, but there's just no shot they can actually start up an Otacon here. I mean, it's desperation hours for Shopify, absolutely. They've got to look for some sort of a crazy pick or some sort of a flip on an objective. But FlyQuest is giving them no opportunities to make anything happen.
And we kind of saw what you guys were talking about earlier in the last fight. That was Palafox making the engage on Masu, trying to get the kill on the Varus, and he got him to half HP. I think the clock has struck midnight here on the Shopify game plan, and there's just no way around it.
And you can tell why FlyQuest had the confidence to just hard force that play, because they've been so good at tracking, you know, all the summoner spells, which also should be very, very commonplace. But they're like, Fudge can't join. If there's no Rumble ultimate,
Got half of the Kanan Crooker with his full combo.
All right.
if there's no Rumble ultimate on Masu in addition to the Annie, if there's no, you know, Nefiri also, you know, ulting onto Masu in addition to the Annie, then
the whole squad.
Then he's not scared. So the mere fact that they can like you know, count it out gives them a confidence. They just hard force the play, push on forward, and they collect so much more every time they do that they really just have Shopify in the stranglehold at the moment.
And I also really like that Quad is actually going Riftmaker a second here. I think it's quite strong on Galio. And when you are playing with a team comp that clearly Masu has to be prioritized, like he has to be killed, you're going to get ignored. So you can deal a little bit more damage. You don't have to be a pure tank or anything like that on the Galio. If people are trying to run past you and ignore you, and you have that Riftmaker, you have some reasonable damage to punish some of these squishy characters.
4.7 thousand gold lead for FlyQuest just about 22 minutes into the game. The next Drake has spawned. Objective bounties are active for Shopify. Contrax is down here, but it's just way too risky to try to start anything up.
And Bwipo has actually hit all 6 swaps on the spellbook, so now he's going to have that minute and 30 extra summoner spell cooldown that he can actually be swapping through. So for a lot of these fights, he'll have a heal, he'll have exhaust, he'll have something that is going to be really useful for his team.
And Shopify now are in full defense mode because they are so out-itemized at the moment, with all these members of FlyQuest having multiple item power spikes. They cannot fight something as little as a Dragon number 3. You have to give over soul points and just pray and hope that you can get a better angle. for the actual Dragon Soul fight, or some sort of pick off in a side lane, which also your chances aren't
Can you
great.
fight over something little like an Otacon here?
All
Maybe
right,
you
boys. We got Otacon starting up, and Shopify's got to try to make their approach. They don't just want to give it away, but FlyQuest is already done as Busio looks to engage with the flash headbutt pulled over the wall. A nice chains of corruption to follow it up. B-Boy's already in danger as the Grand Starfall is about to seal his fate. Masu trying to get away from Palafox off to the side as B-Boy also barely survives. Fudge on the run as Bwipo takes out Palafox, and the fight's not done. The re-engage as FlyQuest continues looking for more kills. Quad jumps forward, but he doesn't have the range. All things considered, only 2 dead on Shopify's better than it looked at the start, but Contracts now has to fully retreat as well. FlyQuest, they'll take the Otacon, they'll take the kills, they'll take the turret, they'll take it all.
Yeah, they get that bottom lane tier 2. They are 7K ahead now. They take the Otacon, and FlyQuest says, let's just fight. Even with Palafox getting onto Masu again here, they don't have the juice to do it by themselves. They need the full team onto him, and they can't make it happen. Everyone dives into the backline. This engage was beautiful from Busio. The Chains of Corruption there to follow it up. And here's now Palafox, full combo onto Masu. No one else is there with him, though, so even though he gets him low, Bwipo arrives, hits the ulti, flashes over the wall, and is able to finish him off, while Masu has a battle to the death against Tibbers, which he's able to take down as well.
Yeah, life stealing off the Tibbers. Bwipo had a good combo there, gets the Bro Proc, gets the knock up into the wall. And the rest of the FlyQuest team, meanwhile, we're looking like an NFL team just running through Shopify.
Bunch of linebackers.
Up into their own towers. Quad is starting the fight on Fudge.
Okay, Fudge calling in some backup from Palafox, but again, it's 2 mages against a tanky Galio. It's not looking so great. They get him low, but they can't quite kill him off. The equalizer finally burns him down. Palafox getting the kill credit on that one, as now Masu might be in a little bit of danger as well. A nice shot from B-Boy to make it a positive trade for Shopify Rebellion. Now Palafox in a little bit of danger, but inspired to the 1v3, trying to escape, or at least take Seos with him, but it ain't gonna happen. FlyQuest have lost 3, and Shopify wants more. Contracts jumps in as Busio barely survives with the Unbreakable Will. It's only 2 very tanky tanks on the side of FlyQuest left, but the guns aren't really firing anymore. Busio looking to buy a little bit of time as Seos might just fall to Bwipo, who's trying to combo him down with the orange CC. The brittle's gonna be enough with that last little burp. Bwipo goes godlike, but he's the only man still standing in FlyQuest colors. Contracts trying to chase him down and complete what'll be a delayed ace for the side of Shopify as Bwipo about to fall here. Quad gonna arrive with the teleport, but he's arriving into a spot where Bwipo's still barely alive. The shutdown over to B-Boy as Quad shows up nearby, but not close enough. Everybody on FlyQuest just died.
This is actually critical. That last kill will have a long death timer here. Maybe Shopify can try and chain together comeback plays. That is always your hope. When you get one kill desynced from the other ones, they want to try and force a pick. The problem is, Bwipo had swapped over to the teleport, so he'll have that ready once he does revive. And the timer is actually going to tick down fairly quickly as we go into the replay.
I mean, this just felt like a little bit of overconfidence. You could see the redemption came in from Bwipo to try to keep Quad alive. And then Masu's just standing and fighting against both the solo laners here by himself, without anyone around to actually protect him. And when Masu dies to this Jin W, all of a sudden, Inspired's stuck on the side. You don't really have any damage left. And it's just some overconfidence, a little bit fast and loose there from FlyQuest.
Yeah. They have to be a little bit careful about the gold that they give over, because now it's getting more competitive as far as this dream fight we've been talking about for Shopify. The Dragon Soul, now they actually, will have some power, some items behind their fight. A couple of extra ones now being completed and coming in for the Shopify hope here, Flowers.
Yeah, it was an overcommitment from FlyQuest. They did overplay their hand, and you can say, yeah, they still definitely have a lead. They're definitely still in control, but the gold lead got cut in half. Right? It was a little bit over 5,000, now barely over 2.5, and Contracts just on the dog, man. There's a reason he plays this champ every time he gets the opportunity to. Now he's got to jump back out of the Baron Pit. The Dragon Soul for FlyQuest spawns in 20 seconds. Kimtech Soul, not usually one that people are chomping at the bit to get a hold of, generally considered lower value than others, but it's still a big power power spike, it's still going to give you a decided and market advantage in the following fights, and Shopify are going to have to think on if they want to allow FlyQuest to have this.
Especially when you see how hard it is already. Like, look how long it took for them to take down Whippo, right? You're just going to be even more durable, more difficult to actually knock down. I do like that Whippo actually went Redemption third, just an additional support item to help keep Masu alive. You already have the Locket in there, and the more defensive items are going to be starting to come through here for Masu, which is going to make things very, very difficult. And it looks like Shopify want to try to get down here. Whippo's up on top side still, but it's going to be very difficult for them to get in.
Okay, FlyQuest, they started to aggro the Drake, but now they're going to leave it. They don't want to split their attention. Inspired now going to restart the objective, pull that one out of the pit a little bit, and you've got everybody else on FlyQuest playing defense for now. Quad keeping an eye on this banana brush, making sure nobody from Shopify can approach. And it looks like the Rebels are going to call this one. The Dragon not worth the fight at this point in time, so it's Chemtech Soul over the side of FlyQuest.
All right, given over. They don't want to walk through these dangerous jungle corridors into this CC-heavy FlyQuest setup here. FlyQuest opt to give over the power in exchange to hopefully get a better setup for their team fight, hoping that the position will actually make up for the difference.
You can see Ghost and Exhaust now ready for Whippo, so he has a double Spellbook Summoners ready to go. And the Terminus is done, which is going to be some armor and Amara that's going to be stacking up for Masu. And he has a Ruby Crystal in inventory, so I think he's going Jack Show next. And I feel like that really is where the clock strikes 10. You're probably never going to be able to 100-0 him if he does get that with everything else coming through.
Well, I do want to point out a lot of the Shred, too, invested on the Shopify side. So Bloodletter's Curse got buffed, which is quite nice for Rumble shredding, also for Annie. You have your Void Staff now completed. Your Lord Dominic's was completed for the Jin. So the hope is there for Shopify to try and get through some of these tanks.
All right, Whippo's leading the charge, and Seos is the target. Continues disengaging here on the Braum, though, as the rest of Shopify has to scramble. Inspired looking for an opportunity as Busio using his heal there on the Alistar, goes in for the engage, and now the Bounce House is in full swing. Inspired roaring through the fight over the top, and it's over before it even begins. Shopify is aced in a matter of just 3 or 4 seconds.
What a fight from FlyQuest. The explosive engage comes through, and they give him no shot whatsoever in that one.
They stomp the end of this game here emphatically in favor of FlyQuest. Clean ace.
Right when it was looking like Shopify might still have one last chance, one more opportunity to maybe dig in and look for a comeback, FlyQuest absolutely slashes those hopes to pieces. 19-6, they're going to slam game 1 and start this series off with a win.
Okay, it is a best of 5. We're gonna go at least a couple more rounds.